My name is Paul Drensek, and I will be presenting my study on the leadership abilities of Fred Rogers, or as many people may know him, Mr. Rogers. From his introduction to the nation as a public figure in the 1960s and until his death in 2003, Mr. Rogers portrayed many exceptional leadership abilities that aspiring leaders can learn from. These abilities were molded by what motivated Mr. Rogers to lead the way he did. Motivation is at the center of the unique, constant, and unchanging behavioral drive that orients every individual to achieve a pattern of results. Todd Henry published a book titled The Motivation Code that details different motivational themes that individuals fall into. Mr. Rogers was analyzed and assessed against these themes to determine the motivations behind his abilities. The three that form the cornerstone of his personality and leadership abilities are experience the ideal, serve, and make it right. Someone who has the experience the ideal motivation is passionate about turning things that are abstract, intangible, or ethereal into something concrete and valuable in the real world. They also tend to have high ideals, integrity, and very clear boundaries of what is acceptable and what is not. This motivation is evident in many of the episodes of the show Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, where Mr. Rogers was able to effectively break down and explain complex emotions and feelings in a way that kids and adults could equally understand. Someone who has a serve motivation is motivated to identify and fulfill the needs, requirements, and expectations of others. From an early age, this is something that greatly motivated Mr. Rogers. His love and motivation for servitude led him to become an ordained minister with a calling of what he believed to be to interact, engage, and work with children and families through the television medium. The Make It Right motivation is an extension of Mr. Rogers' experience the ideal motivation as he constantly followed the standards, procedures, principles, and ideals that he believed were right. He perceived that the television programming marketed towards children was harmful and was motivated to right what he perceived was wrong. Mr. Rogers possessed many leadership traits that contributed towards his leadership abilities. While research has found a weak relationship between personal traits and the success of leaders, there are traits that are commonly found in great leaders that aspiring leaders should work towards obtaining. 5 of those traits that Mr. Rogers exemplified are optimism, honesty, integrity, sociability, and interpersonal skills. Mr. Rogers tended to look on the bright side of things, expecting them to turn out well. During the run of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, he spoke on plenty of difficult topics, such as the Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King Jr. assassinations in 1968 and the Challenger shuttle explosion in 1986, and told his viewers to always look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping. After his show ended, Mr. Rogers was asked to make several public service announcements following the September 11, 2001 events. Despite the horrific events, he told the country that we are all called to be Tikkun Olam, the repairers of creation. Thank you for whatever you do, wherever you are, to bring joy and light and hope and faith and pardon and love to your neighbor and to yourself. Rogers always strived to be honest and grounded in his principles and beliefs. He believed every person was deserving of love and respect, which is best shown as he demonstrated love towards Officer Clemens, a gay black cast member of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, by sharing a wading pool with him in the height of segregation and the disdain that some individuals had with white and black Americans sharing a swimming pool. Mr. Rogers excelled in his sociability and interpersonal skills, as they were at the core of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. He would always read and respond to as many letters as he received from his viewers that he could, sometimes even during his show. 2 children in particular that wrote to him, one who thought Mr. Rogers did not poop since his television house did not have a bathroom, and the second was a blind girl who was concerned that Mr. Rogers did not always feed his fish. He made a point to address both of those concerns on his show and calm theirs, and most certainly other viewers' worries. In conclusion, Mr. Rogers possessed many traits and motivations that made him a great leader, only some of which were presented here. He may not have been what many would consider to be a typical leader, but he was a great leader in his own way. He was a leader that is held in high regard 21 years after his death, and will most assuredly be held in high regard for many years to come. I would like to end with this quote from Mr. Rogers. I'd like to be remembered for being a compassionate human being who happened to be fortunate enough to be born at a time when there was a fabulous thing called television that could allow me to use all of the talents that I had been given. Thank you.